Welcome back. The only file we now have left to process is the trip data file. As we discussed before, we have copies of this file in CSV Parquet and Delta formats. The original file was received only in CSV format, but I created the other two formats to help you with the learning in the previous sections. So please ignore the Parquet and the Delta files and assume that we only have the files available in CSV format. Our task here is to transform these files from CSV format to Parquet format. So let's switch over to Synapse Studio and get started. Here we are in the Synapse Studio. I'm going to simply clone the script from vendor and make the corresponding changes. So the name of the script will go from vendor to trip data green because it's for green taxi. And similarly, the table name everywhere needs to have the name a trip data green as well. And if you remember, we have got a few tables for the bronze data. So let me go to the bronze table script. And as you can see here, we've got the trip data, green delta, which is on the delta files, and you've got a Parquet as well as CSV. As we said, we want to read from our CSV files. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to simply select from the trip data green underscore CSV. So that's the only change I'm making. And let's run this through and I'll show you the data behind the scene. Oops! I missed to change it from vendor to trip data green. Let me change it quickly and then we will run again. So the external table is now created and selecting the data as well. There's a lot of data to select, so I'm going to just simply cancel that. We've got some top few records there, so that's good enough to look at it and the data looks fine and the file format is specified as Parquet, so we should see Parquet files. So let's switch over to our container. So now I'm in my NYC taxi data container and let me go into the trip data green folder. And as you can see here, we've got the Parquet file. But one thing you may notice is that there is only one file here and there are no folders. If you remember in our raw layer, when you look at the trip data green CSV folder, we've got multiple subfolders, that is the partition, the data into year and month. And we had separate files related to that month and yet in each one of them. But then we wrote the data into a silver layer using the CTAS statement. It combined all of that data into one single file and wrote the results. You may see more files at times if the data has been partitioned and written in parallel, but the problem you're seeing here is that we don't have the subfolders. So what that means is you don't have the ability to target partitions. As we said previously in a big data project, if you have huge amount of data and if you can't target specific partitions, your queries are going to be really slow. So we need to have that ability. But the issue with the CTAS statement is that it doesn't give you that ability. So it writes all of that data into one specific folder and it takes away the meaning of our partitions within the raw data that's being selected. So this is one significant limitation of the CTAS statement in serverless SQL pool. Whenever you use the CTAS statement to create a table, all of the data will be written into the one folder you specified. You can't create separate partitions. Having said that, there is a workaround for this. The workaround is to create separate tables for each of the partitions so that you can force the data for each of those tables to be written into separate folders within the container as well. And I emphasize that's a workaround. An ideal solution would be to use something like Parquet to create the data into partitioned folders. I'll talk you through how to use Parquet pool to create this data in a later section. But in the next session, I'll take you through stored procedures. And then in the following lessons, I will talk you through how to use the workaround to create data in partitioned folders using serverless SQL pool itself. So I'll see you in the next session.